China is leveling up, and most people probably don't even know what's happening. Made in China was once seen as the labels of clothing goods or cheap home appliances. Then it moved to green tech, EVs and lithium batteries and solar panels. Now China is moving into the technologies that will shape the future, notably AI, robotics and next generation biotech. Dubbed the new three, these are the industries that China is going all in on. Whether you're an investor, a farmer, doctor, student studying computer programming or trading, looking for the next stock pick, you probably want to understand what China is doing right now in these fields. Why is China going all in on these three technologies? What will this mean for the future of work, business, study, and society? More importantly, what does this mean for you who are watching us in other parts of the world? Welcome to this edition of The Point and Opinion Show, coming to you from Beijing with me, Lu Xin. I'm pleased to be joined from Shanghai by Alex Javornkov, founder and CEO of In Silico Medicine, a generative AI-driven clinical stage drug discovery company. From Singapore, Louise Loo, head of Asia Economics at Oxford Economics, and from Beijing by Li Lun, assistant professor of economics at Peking University. The warmest welcome to all of you. So first of all, let's understand what we're talking about. A little bit of background, okay? Science and Technology Minister of China, In He-jun, recently announced at a policy briefing that China is actively cultivating a new generation of core strategic industries, namely artificial intelligence, robotics, and innovative drugs. Collectively, they're known as the new three. And I'm not making a mistake here because we have the new three, and now these are called the new three. And they are known as emerging growth drivers to bolster public well-being amid high-quality development. So let me go to Professor Li Lun in Beijing first to help us understand exactly what we are talking about when we're talking about the new three here.
Yeah, so I think this concept is representing a fastly changing or transitioning of Chinese economy, right? We're just getting used to the new three, the lithium batteries, the EVs, and also in terms of the green production. So right now we are moving on to the new three: artificial intelligence, robotics, and innovative drugs. I think these sectors are representing a totally different, upgraded level of knowledge-intensive industry. So, for example, artificial intelligence is really going to improve the productivity of almost all sectors because it can improve the decision-making process. It can automate a lot of cognitive tasks. Robots can, put that ability to kind of address a lot of physical, shortages. For example, shortages of labor. It could also, relate to, for example, elderly care. Also, provide a lot of, for example, inspection. Factory work and so on and so forth. And innovative drug is responding directly to an aging population with, the burden of chronic disease and so on and so forth. So I think this new three is representing a not just providing new products, but also enabling the new technologies to upgrade or improve the welfare and productivity of a lot of industries, and also improve both the economic productivity, but also in terms of public welfare.
Probably step back a little bit and try to understand the new three, which was pretty new until yesterday, until we start to talk about the new three. I don't mean yesterday, I mean, the past few weeks. And let me go to Louise Loo in Singapore from an observer's perspective. The new three was actually lithium battery, solar panel, and EVs. They were very hot topics. Actually, they are still very hot topics. So how did that upgrading happen?
Yeah, I think I quite agree with the sir who spoke before me just now, which is that how these really have evolved is a recognition that the new sectors that Beijing wants to focus on has to solve some problems. So whether that's demographic or maybe that's healthcare, but it also has to learn from the lessons of the new tree, right? So when we think about the new tree in a Chinese context, we think of EVs, batteries, solar panels. A lot of these are obviously China is very good at producing these, but we also had quite a few of that downside, right? We had, quite significant disinflationary pressures. We had a lot of tariff pressures that are coming on. So the way we think that policymakers are thinking is how do we promote, a group of strategic industries that doesn't have some of these downsides, right? That doesn't have, the problems of a tradable deflation, that doesn't have the same restrictions that maybe a goods tariffs would have. And I think this new group of, sectors, AI, robotics, drugs, those are the sectors where, a lot of the economic upside sits in things like IP, in standards. And so they're not quite the same as the previous one, which is really just about producing really high-end goods. We're really talking about high-end services here as well.
Interesting perspective you're bringing in, but let me go to Alex in Shanghai. You are in the one of the new three, which is innovative drugs. Tell us about your understanding of this sector as a reflection of this emerging phenomenon we're talking about.
I think that this is the area where all of the technologies, all of the new three will converge and produce the maximum impact on human life. Because currently, whatever you do, whether you are doing or whatever your mother told you, dieting, exercising, and looking after your health, your lifespan potential is very limited. So, in Shanghai, life expectancy is already 85. In Hong Kong, 85.5. If you want to push forward and live longer to see this beautiful future, you need to have more effective therapeutics that will help everybody on the planet live a little bit longer. Currently, there is no drug that can give you additional 1 year of life. So what we are doing, we're trying to identify dual-purpose therapeutics that target aging and disease at the same time, and trying to get them approved for a specific indication and then repurposed for aging, hopefully, so that you could live, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of life longer. And if you translate that to the population, if you generate a drug that goes and gives you 8.3 billion life years, basically 1 year for everybody on the planet, that translates in about 100 million lifetimes. That is more lives that more people have been killed in all wars ever fought. So approximately. So it's actually it's a massive life-saving initiative. So I think that if we develop drugs that give you 5-6 years of life, in addition to what you can already get just from healthy behavior, that's going to be massive economic benefit for everyone on the planet.
Well, it's very interesting, and I want to stay with you, Alex, a little bit, because you're in Shanghai and doing this startup company. What makes you go there and until now stay there? Does that help explain why the innovative drug sector has become such a booming sector very fast, so fast?
Well, we are a truly global company. We are present in Canada, in the US, in the Middle East, and all across Greater China. However, if you want to deliver drugs efficiently and save additional several years of the time it takes usually from discovery to approval of the drug, you will need to come to China, because that's where you get significant acceleration from the infrastructure that has been put in place over the past 20 years. Massive, highly educated talent that is really hardworking and really cares. Because when you're fighting disease and cancer and aging, it's not about work-life balance; it's about life-life balance. So people really work hard, and also the favorable government policies. So instead of erecting barriers, they're trying to figure out how to make the system even more efficient. And more open. So I have a Canadian passport. It's actually pretty easy to travel here. Most people don't realize that nowadays you don't even need to visa to travel. And it's very easy to set up. I don't speak Chinese. It's very easy to do business, even if you are complete stranger. If you are kind of a good cat and you catch mice, you will be a good cat. People will treat you well. And I think that the world is becoming more global. in drug discovery. We need to keep it this way. And if you can get additional 2, 3, 4 years of life to a mother of 2 dying of cancer, you should do whatever is possible to achieve this goal. So China provides you with this platform, and it's a very good place to be.
So interesting to hear your personal testimony there. Professor Li Lun, let me go to you. Again, I think the transformation and the speed of change is just so fast, even for us Chinese. I'm still getting used to, absorbing the new threes, let alone the old threes, because having been born in the last century, we were still pretty much, I remember once I traveled abroad, a couple of years ago, and people said, look, the things coming from China, they're cheap. Unfortunately, they're not very good. That sentence really stayed with me. And the old 3 that are cheap but are good, garments, white goods, and furniture, they are better than what they used to be. But now, almost only 2 decades later, we're looking at these extraordinary technologies, if not goods. What propelled the development of China's high-tech sector? I'm talking about the high-tech sector here. What is the fundamental driving force there?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a very good point. I think what used to drive, the China's economic growth is usually what we call tradable or exportable goods. So these are goods that you could, for example, charge a tariff to kind of, to counter against. But right now, the development of artificial intelligence, the development of, robotics is still a physical good. But when it comes to the patent, when it comes to the knowledge, the research and development, all of the effort that's put into the embodied intelligence, all of these efforts can be really, countered against using a simple tariff. And also, I think it's benefiting the entire human race, as what Alex has been doing, for example, with his team and his entrepreneurship, because once you have a new drug, you actually benefit all of the patients in the world. And your question is, I think, what kind of drives or propels this development? I think because China has developed such a complete and healthy ecosystem for the manufacturing base. So I think the development cycle from prototypes to actual commercialized product is very short. The time frame that's required for this process, when it comes to, for example, the motors, sensors, batteries, when it comes to the robotics, or when it comes to, for example, medicine, the research, and not to mention the talent pool, the number of scientists and entrepreneurs and experts in each area. I think all of these factors contribute to this very healthy and also competitive environment where if you fortunately win some of the competition, you instantly gain a large consumer market. You instantly gain a very sizable market share. So this is the advantage that a lot of multinational companies are actively seeking. So I think China has this unique combination of a very strong consumer market, a very strong production network, and also I think a very innovative research and development team and talent pool. So I think all of these combination is very important for the development of China's EU3.
Yeah, just now Louise had some different perspectives. She was talking about the potential lessons from the new 3. So I want to stay with Professor Li. Would you like to react to that? I mean, do you see some potential lessons that arise from the new 3s to be, to again emerge with the new 3s, and whether you're seeing that first of all? Secondly, are they being addressed adequately?
Yeah, so I think, with the development of new technology, new products, new goods, it's also going to bring, ripple effects or spillover effects to the entire world. For example, with the new 3, we're seeing a lot of competitive pressure when it comes to automakers in Europe, or when it comes to, for example, when it comes to solar panel manufacturers around the world. I think this competitiveness is also going to be felt for these sectors, especially in medicine, in AI, in embodied intelligence as well. But I do think there is more benefit to be brought rather than harm, because when we have a new product, for example, when we have a new affordable robot, it provides another alternative to the market. It's not substituting away, people's opportunities. So it's just the same, similar to, when you have a new EV, it provides an alternative to the current, gasoline-powered cars. So I think this alternative, similar to medicine, if you have a new medicine, you could still have all the pool of old medicines, but it's just giving you another choice to whether prolong your life or cure cancer. So I think this ability to bring another option, to give people an alternative of things, is what technology, the new 3, can actually bring to the table here.
Louise, how would you react to that, and understanding that in terms of trading volumes, because we're not just talking about some concepts. Actually, the new 3 are coined because of numbers, how the world has been buying these products. Basically, importers, wholesalers from around the world have voted with their cash, with their orders, into AI technology or tokens from China, into robotics made in China, into biomedicine that's developed in China. So how do you look at the argument from Mr. Li?
Yeah, well, I think so long as there is a genuine demand underneath, there will always be a Chinese supply that will meet that, right? And we're talking about a wide, diverse range of Chinese supply. We're talking about different kinds of EV makers in the past. We're talking about different kinds of, AI models that are in the system. So we're not really talking about, Chinese oversupplying the market in a very generic way. We're talking about Chinese manufacturers actually, projecting that demand would stay quite resilient and then meeting that demand. Now, obviously, the risk here is that as Chinese innovation continues, and China continues to be at the frontier of technology, increasingly you're essentially producing goods that you don't have a tested demand for, right? And I think that's where the risk is. You tend to oversupply because you don't actually have the demand yet. That is, one risk to watch out for.
But this is interesting. Sorry, yeah, we're not talking about oversupply because we are talking about actual traded numbers here. For instance, in terms of robotics, data from the General Administration of Customs shows that industrial robot exports reached $930 million in the first half of this year. That's a 20% year-on-year increase. So we're not talking about assumptions or imaginations or predictions. We're talking about actually people paying to buy robots made in China. So, yeah, what do you say?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's right. So you have a situation where demand stays quite robust abroad, and so you have Chinese demand meeting that. But on the other hand, you're also seeing that if you have Chinese supply continuing at a current pace and demand tapering off, perhaps because of tariff pressure or because of some of these regulatory environment coming in, you could have a short-circuiting of excess supply that could come into the market. So there is a risk here, I think.
All right. So you're talking about sustainability. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think at this current moment, we are definitely, as an economy that's producing frontier products, that's definitely an ecosystem out there that's demanding these products.
Well, let me put this question to Alex then, if I may. What do you think for the future, the sustainability of such kind of high growth? Are you worried, or you already have contingency plans to prepare for this kind of fluctuation in terms of demands, therefore, oversupply, overcapacity as a result?
I don't see overcapacity in any area that we touch at Insilico. As a matter of fact, we see a kind of shortage. And what China is doing right now, it's actually providing many foundation models, so really frontier AI, for free to the world, for people who really need it and want to use it freely, without restrictions and on their own hardware, and also very cheaply. So in the kind of foundation model world, we see the token shortage. So we could unlock much more intelligence if we had more capable foundation models available and cheaper and more efficient computing. So I think that so we are not going to see, those 30% month-over-month growth in token consumption. Maybe we will. I don't know. I just think that it's kind of difficult to sustain over 12 months. But going forward, as more people unlock the power of artificial intelligence and start using it for all kinds of economic benefit, including personal benefit, including their own longevity. So if you want to live longer, you might need to consume a little bit more AI, and also hopefully, if I'm successful, some of my products, and it's a win-win because if I'm successful, you will live longer. And I think that currently we do have shortage of compute and efficient compute and efficient models, and that's China satisfies that, which is great.
I see. Well, from the numbers that I mentioned, again, in terms of China's provision of AI token or big model goods that China can provide, statistics from the global AI platform OpenRouter show that weekly usage of Chinese large models registered 36.1 trillion tokens in the second week of July. That's an increase of 31% over the same period of time. And that's the top global spot for 12 straight weeks. So, Professor Lee, why, despite the talk of risk and the concerns for sustainable growth longer term, the demands just can slow down? What's behind this?
Yeah, so I think what Louise and also Alex point, I think also the debate, I think it represents the difference between two different views of economic thought. So whether you're from a Keynesian perspective where demand creates its own supply, or you're from a more classic perspective where supply finds this new demand. So I think in China's perspective, where innovation is happening every day, product iteration is very fast. I think my personal preference, I think it's leaning towards the latter, where the supply can create its own demand. For example, in the case of Chinese AI models, when the researchers are training them using current data, no one is actually demanding Chinese large language models because people have not heard of DeepSeek or Kimi yet. But when they're doing so, the innovation, because they have the confidence that in the future, if this model can be provided with low cost, with affordability, people will need it. One way or another, it can provide an alternative to the expensive models from ChatGPT or cloud, and also similar to a lot of new products, for example, the AI plus products, like the AI glasses, for example. Before it was introduced, who would need an AI glass? Because you have never heard of it. Or some of the new medicines that Alex or other researchers are developing, you have never heard of the medicine. So how could you have any general demand for that? Similar when it goes to robotics, the current robots are mainly, I think they're not too affordable right now, and also the battery is not good enough. But in the future, when the cost is further reduced and when the battery is further improved, I think people will generally have a higher demand for these products.
Yeah. Before I go back to give Louise an opportunity to react, Professor Lee, very briefly, from the Chinese perspective, though, do you see what China needs to keep in mind, at least while harboring such high growth in the frontier sector, because the development in China is so uneven? So what do you think China is keeping in mind or has to keep in mind while observing such new threes, possibly triple new threes?
Yeah, so I think to have a healthy and competitive market is very important, because if, for example, a company is providing some products that no one actually needs, the company will gradually die off, and new companies will emerge who can actually provide these, and fulfill this consumption that people, generally and truly needs. So I think having this competitive market instead of having some monopolies taking over the entire market is very important. As we have seen, for example, in Chinese large language models, for example, there are a lot of providers for EVs, there are a lot of providers, and in robotics in the future as well, there's going to be a lot of providers. So whoever succeeds in the market and gaining the largest market share is going to enjoy that benefit and keep a larger profit and reinvest a lot of that into R&D.
Louise, just now Professor Lee was talking about two different types of thinking, right? Creating demand or chasing demands. Would you like to react very briefly? I don't have much time, if you do.
No, I mean, I take it that, you can actually create demand that you don't know what that product is. So if the diagnosis of, a lack of demand is because, people don't know what that product is, I do agree, you do have to take on that approach. But I think when we think about, the Chinese economy, when we think about the demand that needs to follow supply, it really hasn't followed that model. Right. In fact, I would say that the Chinese market is at times too competitive, right? You have people who are too innovative in that, that's actually creating a macro impact of driving down prices. Now, obviously, from a consumer welfare perspective, that's a good thing because you have competitive prices. But from a, industrial profit, whether that feeds through to wages, that may not always be a good thing, right? So I do agree that, sometimes you do need to create that supply to bring on the demand. But I also do think that, that there needs to be some, balancing of the two economic models.
All right. Alex, if I may wrap up with you, do you have some thoughts from being in the innovative drug sector? How do you weigh potential risks going forward?
Well, for any drug, regardless of how you found it, AI, robotics, China, you have to do clinical trials. So even if you have a genie in a bottle and it produces perfect molecules, those molecules will have to go through rigorous testing before the regulators approve their use. So you should be very safe in this particular area. So I don't think there will be any drama and risks associated with this particular field. What we can see is that if we allow for the disconnect between the East and West to happen in biotechnology, it will slow things down and it will result in the massive loss of life because on both sides.
How to prevent that?
On the Western side.
In one sentence, how to prevent that?
Collaboration. So I think that global collaboration and not competition in biotechnology and specifically longevity is most important. It's paramount because life is the ultimate human life. All right. Without that human right, you don't have anything else. And if we collaborate and try to extend healthy, productive longevity for everybody on the planet, you will create the fundamental human good. And that's where I think everyone should agree, collaborate on. And, you and I, we have the same problem. We're aging.
We do.
And we will have diseases. So we need to hit aging at a score, collaborate, and succeed. Then everybody on the planet will enjoy the fruits of our work. So just
Hopefully,
in this area, I think we need to collaborate.
Hopefully. Thank you very much for ending on that positive note. We have to wrap it up there. Many thanks to Alex Zaroronkov in Shanghai, Louise Loo in Singapore, and Professor Lee Lun joining us in Beijing. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook, X, and YouTube using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing on behalf of the whole team. Thank you for joining. You've got the point.